Does this situation sound familiar to you? You're checking your phone, and suddenly that message appears. Hey stranger, how have you been? Or the classic, I thought about you today. It's from him, the man who vanished without a trace, without explanations. The same man who made you question whether you did something wrong, if you were too intense, if you expected too much from someone who never offered anything concrete. You look at it, read and reread the message. You don't respond, not because you don't want to, but because part of you is confused and the other part is exhausted. In that moment, the silence isn't his, it's yours. A silence full of thoughts, questions, and that all too familiar mix of nostalgia, anger, and a deep desire not to fall again into what once brought pain. Why do they come back? What does this message mean? Could it be that he's changed, that he's realized your worth, or does he just want to check if you're still there, available, ready to give him what he doesn't even know how to cherish? This is where the reflection begins, because there's something many women have had to learn through pain. Not everyone who comes back does so because they value you. Sometimes they just want to confirm that they can still knock on your door and that you'll open it. This is an intimate conversation, as if someone with scars, someone who has already risen from that same ground, is telling you with love, but with clarity, friend, open your eyes, because there are signs we can no longer ignore. Today we're going to talk about emotionally low-value men. Not to judge, but to understand, because when you understand, you choose differently. And when you choose from self-love, the story changes. As Carl Jung said, when you truly love yourself, you stop accepting crumbs, not because you're harsh, but because you finally understood your worth. Get ready to face those patterns, not with fear, but with the strength of someone who's ready to close doors that only bring confusion, and open up to relationships that add value, that respect, that choose you without hesitation. It's a pattern more common than it seems. He disappears without warning, without a fight, without a clear reason. One day he's there asking about your day, sending memes, hinting that something serious wouldn't bother him. And the next, there's only emptiness. Complete silence, no message, no explanation, not even a goodbye. And of course, you wonder if you did something wrong. You replay conversations, look for signs, fill yourself with doubt. You feel that uncomfortable anxiety of waiting for a message that never comes. Days pass, sometimes weeks, even months. And then he reappears like nothing happened. Hey, and I've been busy, or the classic, I've been thinking about you. That moment, although brief, unleashes an emotional storm, because your heart remembers, because a part of you wants to believe that his return means something, that maybe, finally, he realized what he lost. But friend, listen to me. A man who disappears without explanation and comes back as if nothing happened is not respecting your time or your emotions. He's making it clear he doesn't see you as someone he should care for emotionally. This kind of behavior isn't random. It's a form of emotional selfishness. He prioritizes his need for space, his crises, or simply his indecision over the emotional stability you deserve. And the worst part is that when he returns, he expects you to be right where he left you, as if your life had been on pause for him. Many women, out of hope or love, let that man back in. They reply to the message, accept the excuse. And just like that, Without realizing, they normalize instability. They normalize the idea that a man can disappear when it suits him and return whenever he wants without consequences. But that's not love. It's a relationship centered around his comfort, not your well-being. Carl Jung once said, "You are not responsible for the behavior of others, only for how you treat yourself." And when you allow those comebacks without explanation, you're also unintentionally telling yourself that you deserve only as little as he's willing to offer. This kind of man doesn't leave because he's confused. He leaves because he can. Because he doesn't see your emotions as something valuable, nor your devotion as something to cherish. And when he comes back, it's not out of love, it's out of need. Maybe he got bored, maybe he failed elsewhere, maybe he just wants to confirm that you're still available, but you're not a reset button, you're not an emotional refuge when his plans fall through. You're a whole woman with real emotions, with wounds that don't deserve to be reopened again and again by someone who doesn't know how to stay. Recognizing this isn't coldness, it's emotional wisdom. It's realizing that love shouldn't hurt, so someone who truly values you doesn't disappear. And if he does, he at least has the maturity to explain, to face you, to speak with respect. So to the next time an unexpected "hey" pops up on your screen, ask yourself, is he coming back out of love or out of habit? Is he truly returning or just repeating the cycle? Is he ready to do something different, or does he just want everything to stay the same? Don't be afraid to close doors that only open when it suits him. As Carl Jung also said, respect begins when you decide never to allow again what once broke you. And that respect begins with you. Sometimes it's not the words themselves that hurt, but what hides behind them. He doesn't say much, just dreamed of you, thought about you today, or the vague, "I miss talking to you." He doesn't propose anything. He doesn't say he wants to come back. He doesn't even truly ask how you're doing. He just throws the phrase into the air, like casting a net to see if anything bites. And you read it and freeze, because you were just trying to forget to close that chapter. And that small, vague, seemingly harmless phrase stirs everything up. Your heart races. Your mind fills with scenarios, doubts, and illusions. Could it be that he does miss me, that he still feels something? Here's the truth that's hard to accept. Those messages aren't bridges toward genuine reconnection. They're bait. They are calculated attempts to check if they still have access to your emotional energy. Many emotionally immature, or simply self-centered, men aren't looking to reconnect. They're looking to confirm that they still matter, that their absence didn't completely shut the door, that they're still in your mind, in your heart, in your energy. This kind of communication is manipulative because it's not clear, it doesn't express intent, it avoids emotional responsibility. It's a way of keeping you close without the commitment that being truly present requires. It's vague on purpose, because in that vagueness, he protects himself from having to offer anything real. Yet he still receives validation if you respond. Carl Jung teaches us that what we give, we receive. If you give attention to empty messages, you end up receiving confusion. If you give energy to someone who doesn't know what they want, you end up drained, emotionally worn out, waiting for vague words to one day turn into certainty, and they rarely do. This kind of man isn't interested in how you are, he's interested in whether you still miss him. He doesn't want to build something with you. He just wants to maintain his ego, make sure he hasn't lost his hold on you. And that, my friend, is not love, it's ego disguised as interest. Emotional ambiguity is a form of control. He sends the message, waits for your reaction, and based on what he gets, decides whether to come closer, pull away again, or just leave you there, with stirred up emotions and no clarity. It's a game that drains you, traps you, and makes you feel emotionally indebted, always waiting for something that never arrives. Many women fall into this because we've been taught to see every gesture as a sign of love, to romanticize everything, to believe that if he thought of you, it's because he cares. But, my friend, we have to learn to distinguish between love and habit, between genuine interest and a need for validation. Don't confuse his curiosity with commitment. Don't confuse a sweet phrase with real intention. And if he doesn't message you to start an honest conversation, to show through actions that he wants to build something with you, then that message isn't, "I miss you." It's, "I want to know if I still matter to you." And you are not here to be anyone's radar. You are a woman who deserves clarity, presence, and emotional reciprocity. Learn to recognize those messages for what they are. Signs that he still hasn't grown emotionally, that he still sees your emotions as something available at his convenience. Don't settle for words that sound pretty but lead nowhere. As Carl Jung also reminds us, you deserve love, not confusion. And that love begins with you, by not responding to what doesn't deserve you, by saving your energy for someone who shows up with clear intention, with words that turn into real actions. This dynamic is more common than we'd like to admit. You're always available, attentive. When he needs to talk, you reply. When he messages late at night, you respond. When he says he's had a bad day, you listen. You're a refuge, support, companionship, always on the other end of the phone, always with an open heart. But when it's you who needs something, he's not there. He takes long to reply. He says he's busy. He makes excuses like, "I've been swamped. My head's not in the right place." Or he simply disappears, precisely when you need clarity the most. It's not occasional disinterest. It's a repetitive emotional pattern that wears you down. And that pattern exhausts you because it makes you feel like you're giving everything and receiving crumbs. Like your emotions only matter when it suits him. Like you have to beg for the bare minimum, for a little attention, for a bit of reciprocity. And when you get it, it feels like a gift, not a right. That kind of relationship isn't love. It's imbalance. And the most painful part is that it often doesn't start that way. In the beginning, he seemed attentive, present, interested. But once he realized you were emotionally available, he stopped trying, because he knew you would keep being there, even if he was halfway in, with divided attention, with fragmented time. Carl Jung said, "You should never beg for love, attention, or affection. If it doesn't come freely, it's not worth having." And that is a truth we must engrave into our hearts. Because when you shrink yourself to fit into someone else's emotional schedule, you break into little pieces, pieces that are hard to put back together again. This kind of man expects you to adjust to his timing, to his emotional availability. He wants you to be there when he wants to talk, but gets upset if you ask for presence when you need it. He decides when the doors open and close, and without realizing it, you get used to asking for permission to feel, to speak, to exist within the relationship. This imbalance is not random, it's a form of emotional control. Because by not being available when you need him, he forces you to seek his validation, to feel like you have to do more, give more, be more, in order for him to want to stay. And just like that, without noticing, you fall into a game where you invest everything, and he manages your emotions like a favor he grants you when he has the time or desire. But love is not a transaction. It's not about giving in hopes that one day it will be returned. Love is sharing from a place of balance, of mutual presence, of real emotional commitment. Many women stay in these dynamics out of fear. Fear of losing him, fear of being alone, fear of accepting that this isn't love. But staying there means losing yourself. It means living in constant search of a validation that never fully comes. It means accepting a love that only appears when it's convenient. You deserve more than waiting around for someone who only shows up when they have time to spare. You deserve a relationship where both of you are present, where your emotions are not seen as a burden, where you too can say, "I need you," without feeling weak or guilty. Remember this, as Carl Jung also taught us, love yourself enough to say no more to someone who only seeks you out occasionally. Because when you learn to be there for yourself, you stop accepting those who show up only out of convenience. You are not here to adjust to anyone's absence. You are here to build something with someone who also knows how to be present, who chooses you not just when it suits them, but when it truly matters. Someone who gives you what you're willing to give: presence, care, and truth. There is a silent but painful pattern many women know too well. You don't hear from him for weeks. No messages, no calls, no interest. And suddenly, he reappears with a casual, "Hey, huh?" or "What have you been up to?" with a soft tone that tries to reconnect as if nothing had happened. But if you pay attention, you'll notice he always comes back at very specific times, when he's bored, when his life feels empty, when things didn't go well with someone else, when he's sad, lonely, or just wants to feel loved for a moment. And you become that safe space, but also that place he only turns to when he has nothing else. And you, with your big heart, listen to him, comfort him, offer your time, words, and energy. You make him feel seen, important, accompanied, but when he's feeling better, when his ego is fed, he disappears again, as if your care was just an emotional patch for his emptiness. Carl Jung said, "What we believe about ourselves becomes true for us." If you believe you only deserve love when someone else is in crisis, you'll end up accepting the role of someone's comfort, but never their priority. You'll end up settling for being a temporary escape, rather than being chosen with love, intention, and clarity. This kind of man doesn't seek you out because he deeply values you. He seeks you out because you serve a purpose, because your presence brings him relief, validation, or a temporary distraction. He's not truly with you. He's using your energy as emotional shelter. And when he feels better, when he regains control of his life, he simply leaves. It's hard to accept this because it strikes directly at your need to feel important, needed, special. But this is exactly where you need to wake up, because you're not here to be someone's in the meantime. You're not a place where someone takes refuge when they're lost, only to leave once they find a more comfortable or easier destination. Many women justify these reappearances with phrases like, "Maybe this time he's really changed. He seems different now. Maybe now he truly wants something serious." But patterns don't lie. And if someone only shows up when things go wrong for them, that's not connection. That's emotional convenience disguised as tenderness. A true relationship is built on consistency, on good days and bad, not only when one side needs comfort. You deserve to be loved in fullness, not used in moments of lack. You deserve a love that stays, not one that visits when loneliness hits. And yes, it may hurt to realize this, but that pain is also the beginning of your awakening. Because when you decide to no longer be available for someone who only seeks you out from a place of emptiness, you take a huge step toward emotional dignity. When you say no to the role of savior, you open yourself to the role you do deserve, that of an equal partner chosen without conditions. Remember, you are not a plan B, you are not a temporary stop. You are not here to be the emotional backup for someone who didn't know how to take care of what they had. As Carl Jung reminds us, until you value yourself, you won't value your time, and until you value your time, you won't do anything with it. Value your time, value your energy. Don't give it away to someone who only shows up when they're empty. Because when you choose yourself, you also raise the standard for the kind of love you allow into your life. You deserve to be sought with intention, not out of boredom, with respect, not anxiety, with commitment, not need. And only someone who has chosen themselves first will be able to do that. There's a moment many women fear, but also deeply need. The moment you decide to speak with honesty. When something doesn't feel right, you sit down with him, calmly, clearly, with a sincere desire for a mature, emotional conversation. You tell him how you feel, you name what hurts, you express your boundaries, your fears, your deepest desires. But he doesn't respond with maturity, he doesn't listen, he doesn't reflect, he doesn't validate what you're feeling. Instead, he gets upset, shuts down, changes the subject. He says things like, you're exaggerating, everything's fine, you always make a drama, or even, there you go again. What began as an attempt at connection ends up as an emotional wall. This behavior is not innocent. It's a form of emotional avoidance, a way of invalidating your feelings and protecting himself from the emotional work he refuses to do. And even more, it's a subtle form of manipulation. It makes you feel like you are the problem, that your emotions are too much, that asking for clarity is asking for too much. Carl Jung said, "You've been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens." When you face this kind of man and he responds with victimhood or avoidance, you're often left with guilt. You begin to doubt yourself, to think maybe you were too intense, too emotional, too direct. But the truth is this: an honest conversation should not scare someone who truly wants to be with you. An emotionally mature man doesn't run from dialogue. He values it, uses it as a bridge. But a man with low emotional maturity turns it into a battlefield where you end up being the villain for daring to feel. This kind of man uses victimhood as a shield. He says he can't handle the pressure, that no one understands him, that he's always blamed for everything. And suddenly, the focus is no longer on what you felt, but on how he feels attacked. That's gaslighting. It's turning the conversation around so you end up doubting your perception, minimizing your truth. And what does that achieve? That you go quiet, that you think twice before expressing anything, that you begin to suppress your emotions out of fear of another passive-aggressive reaction. And just like that, without realizing it, your voice begins to fade in the relationship. Your truth hides. Your need for clarity gets silenced by the fear of upsetting him or being too much. But, my friend, a relationship where you can't speak is an emotional prison. And you are not here to walk on eggshells out of fear of making someone uncomfortable. You're here to build something real. And real things must be faced. Real things are lived. When a man makes you feel guilty for asking for respect, for wanting to be heard, for expressing your emotions in a healthy way, he is not emotionally available. He's someone who hasn't yet learned to face himself with honesty. That's why he runs every time you hold a mirror up to his ego. Carl Jung also reminds us, you can heal your life, but to do so you must be willing to face what hurts. And sometimes what hurts the most is accepting that the person you love simply doesn't have the emotional maturity to love you the way you deserve. Stop silencing yourself. Don't shrink your feelings to keep someone who doesn't know how to stay. Your voice is valid. Your need for clarity is not aggression. Your sensitivity is not an overreaction. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person. Silence can be peace, but it can also be punishment. And when it comes from someone who knows how much you care, it becomes a weapon. He knows you're waiting for a response, that you're looking at your phone anxiously, that you're checking if he's online, if he read the message, if he's going to write, and still he doesn't respond. It's not because he's busy. It's not because he didn't have time. It's because he wants you to feel it. He wants you to notice his absence. He wants you to wonder what you did wrong. That silence isn't empty. It's full of intention. It's an emotional strategy designed to create uncertainty. It often happens right after a difficult conversation, after you've opened up emotionally, after you've asked for clarity, honesty, reciprocity, and then he disappears. He doesn't reply. He leaves you hanging. He leaves you thinking. And instead of feeling safe for having spoken your truth, you feel guilty, as if your truth was too much. Carl Jung said, "Love never punishes, love does not hurt, love heals." And when someone uses silence as punishment, they are not loving you, they're manipulating you, they're testing your limits. They're waiting for you to break, for you to reach out, to apologize for feeling, for speaking, for asking, for the bare minimum, real emotional connection. Prolonged intentional silence is a form of passive violence. It's a form of control, because it's not just that he doesn't speak to you, it's that he doesn't close the conversation. He doesn't give you emotional closure. He doesn't allow you to understand what happened. He leaves you in limbo. And there in that dark place, you start creating explanations, justifying him, blaming yourself. This kind of behavior is deeply exhausting because it leaves you alone with your emotions. It makes you feel that love hurts, that expressing yourself has consequences, that every time you speak, you'll be punished with distance, resignation, or silence. It's a dynamic that chips away at your inner security. And the most dangerous part is that many women begin to adapt. They start to normalize it, to think that's just how he is, that it's better not to say anything, that it's better to stay quiet, to give in, to avoid the silence that hurts so much. But, my friend, when silence is used as a weapon, you're not in a relationship. You're in an emotional battle where you always lose. An emotionally available man doesn't ignore you as punishment. He doesn't disappear when a conversation gets uncomfortable. He doesn't walk away when you need a bit of validation or support. Someone who truly cares responds, even if he doesn't have all the answers. He stays. He is present. He doesn't use his absence as a method of control. Carl Jung also teaches us, you can't force anyone to love you, but you can choose not to accept less than what you deserve. And what you deserve is someone who shows up, who answers, who doesn't leave you talking alone with your pain, with your unanswered questions, with your emotions hanging in the air. If he's ignoring you when you need him most, if he disappears just when you've opened up, it's not carelessness, it's strategy, it's manipulation, it's a behavioral pattern designed to control you from a distance. And you are not here to beg for words. You are not here to plead for presence. You are here to be heard, to be seen, to be respected. And silence, when used as punishment, is not respect. It is subtle emotional abuse disguised as space. Don't keep accepting the role of the one who waits, the one who justifies, the one who stays silent to avoid being punished with more silence. You have the right to relationships where speaking is not a risk, where your voice does not trigger absence, but builds authentic bridges of connection. The silence that hurts is not absence, it's manipulation. and you deserve something infinitely better. Maybe hearing all of this stirs up a strange mix of emotions in you. Maybe you remember conversations, silences, moments when you felt like you were giving everything and receiving almost nothing. Maybe you feel anger, sadness, guilt, or simply a deep exhaustion. And if that's the case, I want to tell you something from the bottom of my heart. You are not alone. Thousands of women have gone through the same thing. They've loved deeply those who were emotionally absent. They've justified behaviors that hurt. They've waited for a message, a call, an apology that never came. They didn't do it because they were weak, naive, or dependent. They did it because they learned to put others above themselves, because they confused devotion with love, because they believed that if they gave enough, one day they would be chosen the way they deserve. But today you are standing in front of a truth you can no longer ignore. A truth that is uncomfortable but also freeing. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Your emotional energy is sacred. Your time, your tenderness, your devotion are not currencies to buy affection. They are gifts and should only be shared with someone who understands them, values them, and honors them. Carl Jung reminds us, love who you are, what you do, and how you do it. You are enough. And that sense of being enough doesn't depend on whether he replies, whether he changes, whether he comes back. It depends on you, on how you see yourself, on how much you respect yourself, on how often you choose your peace over emotional chaos, even when that chaos comes disguised as love. Recognizing these patterns isn't coldness, it's emotional wisdom. It's realizing that you can love without losing yourself, that you can care for someone without neglecting yourself, that having standards is not arrogance, it's self-protection. It's your soul saying enough because it knows you deserve more. You deserve a clear love, one that doesn't disappear, that doesn't play games with silence, that doesn't come looking for you only when it feels empty, that doesn't punish you for feeling. You deserve a love that is consistent, present, and brave. A love that is built day by day with words and actions, with respect and truth. One that doesn't fear your intensity, one that doesn't run away from your emotions. And yes, that kind of love exists, but it begins with you. It begins the moment you stop accepting what you once tolerated. When you rise from relationships that only left you broken, when you close doors without bitterness but with determination, when you understand that losing someone who didn't know how to be there is not a loss. It's an act of self-love that heals. Maybe today you don't have all the answers. Maybe you still feel something for him. Maybe it still hurts, and that's okay. Healing isn't linear. There's no single path or magic formula, but every step you take toward yourself is a victory. Every time you choose healthy silence over emotional chaos, it's an internal revolution that transforms your life. Carl Jung also used to say, everything is going well, everything conspires in your favor. From this experience, only something positive can emerge. You are protected. Repeat these words, write them down, embrace them, because they are true. You are safe and you are progressing, even if the process sometimes feels painful. Every day, you're getting closer to that version of yourself that no longer accepts crumbs, who no longer searches in others for what only she can give herself. A woman who understood, who awakened, who chose herself. And that act of self-love changes everything. If uncertainty ever visits you again, remember this: you didn't come here to be someone's backup plan when it's convenient for them. You came to be chosen, clearly, permanently, and bravely. And only a man who has had the courage to choose himself first will be able to choose you in the way you deserve.